So I've been doing some deep thinking meditation. So I decided to go to the woods and just reflect a little bit on the idea. Just after reading a little bit about Abdullah's teachings, man who literally trained Neville Goddard into becoming whatever he accomplished in his life. And it just occurred to me over and over again, like many times, besides, everybody might have some skepticism to this idea about you being the center of the creation of your own life. Everything's being centered around your imagination. And it dawned upon me that when I thought, how could this be like something that is so important, and we boastfully claim that we've had so many gurus, so many charlatans, so many know-it-alls throughout the history, and we didn't get here yesterday. So after that, I just realized that there is in this aspect of the divinity residing within oneself or having the access within oneself. I remember a friend of mine. She was born into Judaism, and she doesn't admit any. She just mentioned she's totally aware of the teachings, and it is mainly, although she doesn't consider herself a Jew, she just says that her grandfather, she kind of nitpicked all the, or I would say even through osmosis, she just got all the idea from her grandfather. She was really close to her grandfather, so therefore she sat and listened to her grandfather being a little girl, and all this nuggets of wisdom, this treasure trove of knowledge, was like has been stored into her, or she just accepted it and kept it there besides her skepticism. And she just mentioned it to me one day about after, long after just mentioning that she was skeptical when we were just having a very deep conversation about this. And she just said it was, I brought up the idea of Moses, the Ten Commandments, going up the hill and then coming back, and he sees everybody with the golden cow. And for me, especially when she's obviously familiar with Neville Gordon, and when I mentioned that Neville Gordon says that there's no other God rather than the one you find in your own imagination and so on. On one hand, I also kind of brought up the idea that Reverend Ike, if you do not know about him, is a guy who playfully says that God created man, and which probably most would agree. And man, being a gentleman, he returned the favor. That means God is a creation of man as much as man is a creation of God. So we're just pondering on this, and she told me that her grandfather had told her that this thing uh, just you have to. It's the inability for anyone to accept the divinity within themselves, and so the golden cow analogy with Moses. And then after a while, I just kept thinking about it, and I was just astonished that it has been throughout, like each and every scripture in my culture, in Hinduism, there is this mantra called Soham, which means I am that, I'm the divinity basically. And the there's so many other things like karma itself. I mean, one of the holy scriptures, one of the holy epic books says that it is basically your life is under your control, and therefore what you're doing is going to come back in a not necessarily in a karmic in a negative way. Karma does not have to be negative. Karma just means your your own creation. whether it is just mental or you are doing something. And besides the Buddhist perspective also, but rather than even more than Buddhism, I've studied. Well, I wouldn't say like I'm a PhD on it or anything like that. I've been in touch with Sikh uh, clergymen, and which I really find it really fascinating. And them, as far as I thought, I mean, when I was growing up, it was almost like there are certain principles from the founder of the Sikh tradition known as Guru Nanak. Apart from that, they're just meant to be a martial community. They had to defend, they go out and try to protect everyone else against forced conversion and so on. And even them, uh, the last Guru who consolidated the whole identity of a Sikh and even formed this Sikh army, on different occasions he mentions, he just says the sentence, Sab Govind hai, Sab Govind hai, Govind mein sai, Govind bina na koi, which means everyone has God, and there's no one who doesn't have God within themselves. The thing is, he said it in such a poetic and maybe nonchalant way that perhaps it is kind of overlooked. And this was also like almost a credo, a kind of a motto just before, they believe, I mean, Sikhism, which is practically an orthodox way of, orthodox version of Hinduism, much more simplified. They just believe in one God and that's it. It's not polytheistic. So uh, there are there have been many times where a soldier has to go to war, and when he is about to just fight someone, uh, basically defeat them and maybe just shoot an arrow and end it. They have this expression. They kind of apologize for it because it's like everybody's got they use this expression har vich nar hai, nar vich har hai. And that means among men is God, among gods is man, and therefore me performing this act of the bellic act would be is just because I have to defend myself against their ego, the ego being far from their divine vision. So I know this can be a lot to even to chew upon or even come to terms with, whatever. Now, if that happens to be the case, I invite you to just consider two things. Number one, how much, I mean, there is this amnesia that we have upon birth, which is, I can just say that it's what we've been told, so it's not, it's my second-hand knowledge, whatever. So, if besides the amnesia, if there is something that I can swear upon, or I mean, swear by, I would say, rather than uh, just lived life experience tells you that something that you could really, maybe you can testify, you could say how much of limiting beliefs since the day you were born was imposed upon you by society since you are a little child, the family, your well-meaning parents, your teachers, everybody. That's one part. Now the second, this is the most important part. When you think about the power of your intention, how you focus on something and then you bring it into your attention. I'm sure you've had at least one experience that you're thinking about someone and they called, or maybe you had a something that you were obsessed with, a goal that you wanted to achieve, and then you ended up achieving it, although it seemed impossible. So that kind of highlights in my. Well, we could go on and just be talking about the power of intention for the eternity, but just consider these two things. There's the power of your intention, and you might, if you are bold enough to say you manifested something. Now consider not having any of the limiting beliefs that were imposed upon you, like ever since you were a child. Now, consider without those limiting beliefs, just getting free of it, and what you could do. With all these limiting beliefs, you already manifested. If you did not have that, think about that one. So, those are two very heavy pills to swallow, and still you might think that this is all too much, or you can't really accept it. Then I would say either you find out about the double slit experiment, or you simply set an intention, something like maybe somebody's gonna, out of the blue, they're gonna call you to give you a good news or whatever it is, and then when you make it happen, I mean, it just happens because you focus on it. Come back and let others know so that people start